It is the Charles Van Morgan Show. Welcome. So today we're going to talk about everybody thinks that the truth is safe, to believe the truth or to tell the truth, but the truth isn't always safe because the truth gets weaponized. It's about how the truth is cherry picked and how the people in government power defame people and get completely by with it. So welcome. It's the Charles Van Morgan Show. We are indoors today because of the rain. So you see our banner today. Thank you all. Welcome. We're going to talk about propaganda and defamation from the rule book. I'm Charles Van Morgan. I have a doctor of jurisprudence, passed the bar twice, and the state has defamed me and gotten by with it. So we're going to speak the truth to power and talk about them just a little bit or maybe a whole lot. So come on board. We're going to talk about defamation law. Just telling the truth isn't always safe. Sometimes you have to look at the truth that they're telling you and what light they're telling you and figure out the propaganda. So, and it's not always safe for you to tell the truth. We're going to look at defamation rules, and we're going to look at propaganda and how the government lies about you, how they spread propaganda, people in government power, specifically in the state of Tennessee. It goes on worldwide, and how they lie about it and are able to smear people. So we're going to talk about defamation and rules about defamation, and we're going to talk about propaganda and how the government gets by with false information. Sometimes they get by with even telling the truth and putting it in a bad light against people. So come on board. Welcome. Defamation by people in government power. It's the Charles Van Morgan Show. Thank you all for watching. So we'll get on with the show. Thank you all very much. So welcome. So today we are going to talk about the government defaming people and getting completely by with it. And here's a few articles in the newspaper where they defamed me. Dozens of trooper tickets dismissed, right here in the paper, in the News Sentinel. Dozens of trooper tickets dismissed, where the government, and that's just one of them, there are many other more stories where they defamed me and put things in a false light and put out falsehoods. Now, in the news right now, they have got the State Highway Patrol and law enforcement agencies all across the United States of America evidently arresting people that are not drunk, have zero drugs in their system. And the colonel of the Highway Patrol is trying to say the system works because they get out of it in court. Their picture goes in papers as arrested, and it's a form of defamation. They're doing that all over the United States. It's at epidemic levels, arresting people falsely that aren't drunk. You can be driving down the road and minding your own business, going to work and trying to make a living, or maybe going to see your family, and you get stopped by law enforcement, blue lights. You have to stop, or you get into worse trouble, and you haven't been doing any drugs or anything, nothing wrong, and they even lie about the reason why they stopped you, and they're arresting people and putting them in jail just to get numbers up to make it look like they're doing something, and they are doing that nationwide, and they're blaming the patrol officers. And the patrol officers are just doing what they're told, but getting put pressure on them. And the patrol officers are out there trying to find drunk drivers because they're being told that causes death, and it does. And they're being put pressure on to get so many, expected to get so many drunk drivers with a quota. And they say they don't have a quota, and they do have a quota. They absolutely do have a quota. When you work the federal government overtime assignments, you're required, they literally have a driving under the influence, intoxication, overtime period where you're supposed to go out and specifically look for a drunk driver, and you have to have at least one drunk driver in that 4-hour period, or you don't get to work that overtime anymore. So there's a financial incentive. And they're putting pressure on Tennessee state troopers and other law enforcement work that overtime nationwide. It's a federal program to arrest drunk drivers. So they're out here wanting to work the overtime, feed their families, and they come upon somebody, a lot of them reasonably believe they're drunk, or they believe that there's enough facts that even if they're not drunk, they're okay in a civil suit, that they'll get by with what they're doing because they have their conscience is seared, and they think, well, here's evidence. I know they're not drunk, but I can say they are because I got this evidence. So here's the thing: you're driving down the road, you're arrested for drunk driving. Now that is a form of drunk driving, and here I am as a Tennessee state trooper, and they're saying troopers are arresting people falsely, and they're having to dismiss the cases. Now here is the spin. This is the propaganda. We're going to talk about propaganda and defamation today. You can tell the truth and still be sued because there's other torts, there's other civil wrongs besides defamation. So you can be arrested for doing nothing because of the people we have in government power right now. It's pretty serious. And they lie on you. They tell falsehoods, ruin your reputation, ruin your career. These people in government power. And you say, well, I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm not going to confront the government. They might need you as a number. I mean, it's going on nationwide, not just in Tennessee. It's at epidemic levels in Tennessee, and some other states it's bad. Get people getting arrested for no reason, using the drunk driving laws falsely, and they're going to blame the troopers. They're trying to pass legislation now, and they already have to have the names of everybody that is arrested for drunk driving falsely, so they can say, well, we cleared you. We put out the truth and propaganda that you weren't doing anything wrong. But that's a little too late, isn't it? And there's also a crooked state representative who's a liar and defamer who had a lot to do with this false propaganda that was put out against me. And he's trying to pass legislation to hang out the trooper. And instead of dealing with the hierarchy, because they never deal with the hierarchy. Hierarchy's fine. They protect him and put out false propaganda to protect him. And the hierarchy is not even subject to defamation laws like you. Let me say that again real slowly. The hierarchy, the people in power, the governor, the has-been, the Christian Bill Lee, the state house representatives are not under the same defamation laws that you're under. They can tell falsehoods about you in particular settings, clear, flat out lies. It doesn't even have to be propaganda. They don't have to have an inkling of truth. And they're fine. They get by with it. No problem. But if you say the same thing about them, they can sue you in court, take your house, take your money, and in some instances, they can put you in jail if you say something violent. So there's a two-tiered civil system, and there's a two-tiered criminal system, and the propaganda is alarming because they do stuff that's dangerous, horrifically dangerous, and arresting people that aren't drunk is dangerous because they're letting the drunk go by because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And the people in power are responsible for that. They want to have a lot of drunk drivers arrested and expect troopers to do their job and officers to do their job, and they don't train them to do their job right. That's the problem, the systemic problem at the top of the agencies. It's not with the troopers. God bless troopers. You're doing the best you can. And when they do something wrong, they're having to dismiss all these false arrests by these officers that make false arrests. But and they're going to blame the officers. They're hanging out on the news. An officer in Middle Tennessee that made a lot of drunk driving arrests, 41, and they said that 20 of them were dismissed because of no alcohol in their system, and they're putting his name and his picture in the fake paper and his state trooper uniform, hanging him out and saying he's no longer with the agency. That's what the agency says. We got rid of the problem. We're great. And they're having to dismiss all that problem, and they're saying he made false arrests. But when they do something wrong, like this right here, dozens of tickets tossed, and they're blaming me for what they did. Those were really drunk people. One of those people that they're talking about in that hurt a little child, and I almost got killed arresting him. And nothing I did wrong. Out risking my life, doing what I should be doing, protecting the public, protecting a 3-year-old child. The family called me and thanked me. Somebody was drunk, hurt a child in a drunk driving wreck. 0.17 alcohol level, really drunk. And they, because of people like Lionel Russell, that is trying to pass laws to find out where the problems are about the troopers that are making too many false drunk driving arrests. But Lionel Russell, why don't you find out the people in the House that have caused mass fatalities on the road like you? Why don't you do that? But he won't do that because of the propaganda, because they're in charge of the rules, they're in charge of the regulations that they put on you, but they have no rules, no regulations, completely exempt. They can lie on the House floor, and I'll explain it to you. Say that can't be right. That's not true. Let me explicate this a little for you too. That's the way it works. You say, well, that doesn't work if that's true. It works well for them. Let me show you. So they put out and blame me for all those tickets dismissed, but I didn't dismiss them. They did. They caused a lot of people to get killed, because when you arrest a lot of drunk drivers, people that are really drunk, then what happens is the fatality rate goes down. Just God-given common sense and science and math, statistics. And because if you arrest somebody for drunk driving, you get them off the road, and they're really drunk. This guy was 0.17. And they're really drunk. You get them off the road, and you protect them from hitting someone else, and it sends a message if they get convicted that, hey, if you do this, you're going to spend your 48 hours in jail, and you're going to do your time, and you're going to have your license suspended. You're going to have the machine in your car. You're really drunk, and the crime focuses on the problem. But when you are in public office, and when you're supervision with the Highway Patrol, and you toss hundreds of tickets, and then you blame the trooper that is really not any problem arresting false arrests, I double dog dare them to go back and find any 00 on anybody that I arrested. It don't happen. The ones they got now are the ones out making false drunk driving arrests, and it's a spin on the facts. They put stuff on you that they do wrong. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good trick, isn't it? And then they sit in the legislature and brag on themselves and talk about how good they are. So we're going to talk about defamation, just reading it from the book Defamation Law. And I know a little bit about it. I'm not practicing law, but I'm talking about defamation from the textbooks and what I know. I passed test in the bar exam twice, but I'll never get my law license because of defamation, because of people that don't have a law license that are lawmakers. And they think that I'll go away and shut up. No, the truth is the truth, and it has weight and value, and it means something. And that's what I stand on. This is Charles Van Morgan, unbridled news. We'll stand the truth. Unafraid, unbridled, uncontrolled by the propaganda liars in government power that need to be exposed for your safety and for their own safety. They're even dangerous for themselves. Some of the people that cause for horrific drunk driving wrecks because of taking people off the roads, not just me, that knew what they were doing because they didn't kiss the ring. Some of these people that were responsible for that, it made the roads safer all across America, all across the state of Tennessee, for not just the public. They're so stupid, for them. And some of them were actually hit by the drunk drivers that they facilitated. I mean, it is really that bad. And the propaganda that you hear involving those wrecks, you don't hear that the supervisor that got hit by a drunk driver took people off the roads that were out protecting the roads and making the roads statistically, mathematically safer. out slowing people down, out getting people out of cars that were too drunk to drive, that could have run into the majors and the captains, but they're not doing anything. They're smiling real big, getting their big paycheck, advancing in the department because everybody that kisses the ring, and they don't tell you that in the Department of Safety. While the very name of the Tennessee Department of Safety is propaganda. Tennessee Department of Safety, that's propaganda. It's the Tennessee Department of Propaganda and Danger to the Public, where we can make money. It's the Tennessee Department of Public Danger. The Tennessee State Dangerous Agency to you and themselves. It's propaganda. It's not true. It's not true. And you look at the bills that they pass. They're the Road Safety Act. That's an act to tax you for gas. I mean, so defamation and propaganda, their government's involved in it 110%. Every message that the government puts out, look at it and see what it really means. At times, there are times where it means what it says, and it is good for your benefit. I'm not talking about every law. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. The government does everything wrong, and they're bombing your house and coming in and trying to kill you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that people in government power are self-interested, their conscience is cleared, a lot of them shouldn't be there, and they pass laws and do things that are very dangerous to your safety, health protection, and well-being, and that of your family, and they perpetrate it. They get by with it by use of propaganda and defamation. You can type my name in Google, and none of it is true. The false light that they put on me. Some of the facts are true, but the picture that they put into those facts is false. You can type in Bill Haslam's name, and he's got his name on the University of Tennessee, and he's somebody that gives a lot of money to charity, and he's such a great man. If you read between the lines and look for stuff that he has really done, it's all about the money. It's all about the power. My personal opinion is he's not a good man, and in the personal opinions of other billionaires, he's a scoundrel, which is what Warren Buffett said about him. He's got his name on the University of Tennessee, got the Haslam College of Business. I've got a degree from the University of Tennessee in advanced in criminology. My name's not on the building because I didn't buy it with my billions paying people off, which is what he does. He's not a good man. He's not. And I can tell you numerous things that he's done wrong, but he's got money. And where did he get his money from? Exploitation of the poor. We're talking about defamation. I'm going to blow the defamation, the propaganda, all to hell, tell you the truth about things, stuff they don't want you to know, and contribute to the channel. If you can't, hit the square icon, hit the like icon, and spread this message. The message they don't want you to hear. It's not conspiracy. They're involved in conspiracy. They're involved in defamation, and they're involved in propaganda. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It's about deception and lies, and we're going to straighten it out. This is unbridled news the best I can. There's so much lies, you get tangled up in it. Defamation is unprivileged false statement of fact about a person published to at least a third party that damages their reputation. And libel is written and slander is spoken. So if I said something false about somebody, then it could be on the YouTube channel, then they could sue me for slander. So that's part of defamation. False communication, unprivileged false communication, disseminated to at least a third person that tends to lower them in the standing of the community, cause other people not to want to deal with them. And so unprivileged. Now that's where they get by with a lot of what they do, by the unprivileged part, because they have passed laws to where they get to defame you, and they do on a daily basis. It's horrific, the foul garbage and the sick stuff that's completely false that comes out of their mouth, that if you sit on the street or told your neighbor about it, would be clearly false information. It hurt their reputation, would get you sued and in court. And they would win because their judges decide whether or not what their lies are true or not. I mean, that's the way they got it set up. We'll go on with this to see if we got anybody in here. Like, share. We got a lot of stuff to share with you. We're talking about defamation, how the government controls you, keeps you in the seat, keeps you full. A lot of people know that it's not the truth, but we're going to spell it out for you. Talk about their lies and how they frame things in a false way. And did you know sometimes even telling the truth can get you sued, and even telling the truth that is not even in false light. Listen, many people got in here. God bless you all. Thank you all for showing up. This is Charles Van Morgan Show. Welcome, welcome. Appreciate y'all being here. So we got just a few in here. So here is the truth about defamation. It's unprivileged. So that means that a judge sitting behind a desk adjudicating a case can say false stuff about you, accuse you of horrific stuff. I mean, they can accuse you of sexual relations with your family, which is what they have done in some cases. That's completely false. Make a joke about you falsely. Because they're sitting behind a judicial bench, they're allowed to say that because that is privileged. They can say anything they want to. It's designed, according to them, to make it to where they can adjudicate freely because they're adjudicating conflicts. So people are in conflict with each other. That's what judges do. One of them the other day, in his arrogance, the lawyer was arguing, the defense attorney was arguing for his client that it was a horrific situation. His client trying to get him to lower the penalty that nobody won. It was involving the death of a child, and they were saying it's accidental. And the attorney for the public defender's office, as a poor lady, was trying to argue that it was a horrific situation that happened to her child, and that them punishing her and keeping her in jail for a long time, it was accidental, that wouldn't do any good. And the judge, in his arrogance, well, we all deal with horrific situations all the time. So that it didn't go in his ear at all. He's not going to be merciful to the public. He's going to stick it to you, jail you a long time. But did he mention the judge that has now just recently been nominated for a promotion by the governor because he rules for the governor? Did he mention that sometimes these judges cause horrific things to happen, that he's part of the problem? He didn't mention that. No, no. We're gods. Everybody stand up and judges coming in the courtroom. Yeah. No. I mean, the judge ought to have to stand up for you. If I ever got in public power, I'd start making these judges, some of these dirty, sick, dirty, nasty, foul-mouthed judges that get unprivileged false communication. That's in the law. They privilege themselves. They can get up there and defame you, accuse you of everything. Horrific stuff you never even thought of doing, never, no evidence of anything. Get up there and say that about you. Privileged. They're behind their little wall of Godship and honor, and let's tear it down. Let's tear it down. Judges in Tennessee, let me give you a little clue. Judges in Tennessee lie a lot. A lot of them lie. Tennessee judges. Nobody will say that. Charles Van Morgan will say that. Sent by God to tell you all the truth, I believe. And may God protect me. They put me in a unique situation. I wouldn't advise everybody to do this, but they put me in a unique situation. And I'm throwing the truthful rocks at them. They're dangerous for themselves and each other and the populace. So judges are involved in defamation. And if you file a complaint against them, that's what they say. If a judge does something that's wrong against the judicial code of ethics, then you make a complaint through the Judicial Board of Professional Ethics of Conduct. You go do that and see how that works out for you. Because you got a judge that looks into his buddy, whether or not he's doing anything wrong. It's all in a big happy judicial ship family. A journalist got arrested for trying to go to a public meeting involving a meeting of the judiciary where they're going to get together and strategize. We got a right to know what's going on in their little private parties that they exclude reporters in. That's wrong. So, unprivileged on the House floor. Lionel Russell, and he's acted like a fool and showed you who he is on the House floor by kicking everybody out of their government house. They're not serving you, you're serving them. Open your mouth and contest peacefully and orderly against one of the rules, and you'll find out who's the boss. They'll get you out, put you in jail, and knock the hell out of you is what they'll do. It's that serious. I'm not downplaying or over making this inflammatory. It is that serious. I'll tell you what you need to do. It's called vote. To sit it out will not do you any good. It'll get you in jail. Drive down the road. I'm not drunk. Look on the news. This is really happening. People are going to jail. They need numbers. They need you for their pawns is what they need. And you say, well, they're doing wrong. It'll be found out. No, it won't. They are expertise at propaganda, at lies, at flipping the wrong. They did right and somebody else did the wrong. That's what they do. That's why they've gotten public power. They're good liars. And they even lie and they can get by with it. Defamation, unprivileged. They're privileged on the House floor. They can say false stuff. Will Russell can get up on the House floor today, and he might. I don't know. I don't care. And say Charles Van Morgan seen a wreck and drove past it, and he can just say that. And that's not true. That's a falsehood. Now, he's got that backed up by dirty Tennessee judges. That's a complete total lie. One of the judges that lied for the governor is now went to the same law school as me, is an appeals court judge. Probably be a Supreme Court judge. If they lie for them, they get promoted. So it's about lying for the governor, lying for people in power, then you get promoted. It's not about the truth. Has little to nothing to do with the truth. This is Charles Van Morgan, unbridled news. I'm just telling the truth. This is not conspiracy. I'll tell you facts. I was there, seen it with my own 2 eyes, so I know they're lying. And so unprivileged false statement of fact about a person, published it to at least a third party. So if you're right next to somebody and you're speaking to them, say I think you're a dirty crook, and nobody else is around, then that's not defamation. It has to be published to at least a third person, spoken or written. So that's one of the elements, and has to lower them in standing in the community, cause other people not to want to deal with them. And you could say stuff that you think is positive about somebody, and it might cause other people not to want to deal with them. People have different perspectives, so you have to be careful with what you say, because they'll hold everything against you. And I'm not telling you to be careful what you say. I'm just saying there is a lot of gray area depending on what court. Judges and courts have different bents, and it's all bent in their favor. Example, Jamie committed theft, false, said aloud equals slander, posted online is libel. Another example, defamation, Sarah's bakery uses rotten ingredients, false fact. False lie, true photo in misleading caption, Sarah caught running scams. So posting Sarah's medical condition, sex life, true but not public concern. Now, those are examples of where you can tell the truth and still get sued for defamation. Unprivileged false statement of fact about published to at least a third person, usually at least a negligence for a private person, harm or presumed. And example, Jane steals from her employer, false, told to others, damages her standing. So in defamation law, what you say or what you write about another person, published to not just them, to at least another person, is a civil wrong. It's a tort, and you can be sued for it. They do it all the time, privileged behind judicial benches. They do it on the House floor. That is privileged in the law. You cannot sue them. It's be dismissed. They do it all the time. Judges do it. If you complain about what a judge has said about you that's false, which I had done, you complain to the Tennessee Board of Judicial Ethics, who will dismiss the complaint in the favor of the judge, no matter what they say. They violate judicial rules and don't hold themselves accountable. I mean, they do whatever they want to do, which is why it's easy to do what I'm doing and point it out and argue the truth. The truth matters. It has weight and value. So slander, spoken defamation, oral, live stream, phone, in person. So if I'm saying something false about them, and I'm sure they might, but they made me a little sue-proof. I have no money because they've stolen it all from me by their illegal actions and their false propaganda. So libels written, posted articles, captions, emails, flyers, videos with caption graphics. Now, I put out a lot of inflammatory information, put it out all over the state. It's all true. They haven't sued me for defamation, but what they've done is made it illegal for me to leave it. They've changed the laws because they even have control of the laws. They write the laws that benefit them. So they put out information about them paid for by me in their allowance for publishing what the government is doing. And it's not doing good, but they put out propaganda that we're doing real well, we're wonderful, we're beautiful. And I have to pay for their false information because they're not doing wonderful. They're arresting you people all over the state, and that's just a small sample of the problem. And they're saying the system works because the people that are getting arrested are getting out of it. But that's the ones we know about. How many people are falsely arrested that are in jail right now that didn't get out? The system is broke to hell for you. It works fine for them. They'll never get arrested for drunk driving. They'll say, I'm the colonel, or I'm the commissioner, or I'm Bill Haslam, or I'm the mayor, or I'm such and such. I'm a police officer, badge them, and they get by with it. That's how it works for them. Works wonderful, above the law, flying high, and you are not just have to abide by the law. You're below the law. Because it doesn't matter if you don't break the law. Look at the example. They're putting innocent people in jail for drunk driving. And that is the only thing that they're putting people in jail for. Let me make a false statement. The only thing in Tennessee that they're falsely putting people in jail for is the drunk driving stuff that is epidemic levels are publishing in all kinds of newspapers. That's the only thing that false arrests are being made in Tennessee. Don't worry. We know about it. We see it. They're taking measures to correct it. And that's the only time you'll ever be arrested in Tennessee or ever be sued or have be incarcerated in a jail is because of drunk driving. It's known. They're dealing with it. The governor's dealing with it. Lionel Russell's dealing with it. I mean, they're taking care of that. I mean, if you believe that, wow, that is not true. That's a small tip of the iceberg that's leaked out. It's much worse than that. The false arrest, the false defamation, the false propaganda put out by the government. This is Charles Van Morgan, Unbridled News. This is the truth. And hit the subscribe button. You'll hear this. And it'll be on your channel. This is live stream. And so you won't be notified of it. And you can get notified immediately when I come on. Every day I usually post some alarming, truthful information that nobody else says that you need to know. That's not conspiracy theory. I mean, are they arresting people falsely for drunk driving or not? It's out there. I go a little bit deeper and tell you not only are they not arresting people, the colonel says the system works, that they're getting out of it in court. That's some of them that are falsely arrested getting out of it. Much more than that are not getting out of it, doing jail time for something they didn't do. It could be you. You say, how do you know that? Well, the ones that take a blood test and it comes back 0-0 are getting out of it. The state has no evidence. What about the ones that refuse? Well, for whatever reason, they're stone cold sober, they refuse because they don't trust the TBI. Maybe the TBI is just, maybe they're not. I don't know. I know some of the people that work for TBI have family members that are state troopers. They're not just state troopers, they're supervisor state troopers. Because if you have a family member that works for TBI, you're not just a trooper, you get elevated to a higher level. Not because you know what you're doing, because it's all one big happy family for them, but it's total, complete chaos, jail time for you and your family, and defamation for the mass populace in Tennessee, which is what I'm trying to help. There's more of us than them. We can band together and vote and beat them, and some of them need to be investigated. We need to flip the script to the truth, get rid of the false propaganda, and put them in jail for their mass tragedies that they've caused all across Tennessee, all across the United States of America. That's what we're dealing with. Help me do that. Subscribe to the channel if you can contribute. If you can, keep watching. We're talking about defamation. You're held to a standard that is unreal. They can say whatever they want to say. They're privileged. They can lie. They say they got professional boards to deal with their misconduct. Their professional boards are worse than the judges that perpetrate them. I've met them. I'm not talking off the top of my head. I have met a man that was in my law school. He's over the National School of Law, Joe Koch, that's over the Professional Board of Responsibility for Judges. And he was a judge, and if you complain to him, he'll say the judge didn't do anything wrong, even though they said something about you that's horrific, would cause no one want to deal with you. And you don't want to repeat it, it makes it worse. And you know, I'll just say this, they're probably responsible for the things that they're saying about you. How could they come up with that type of thing? It's called gaslighting. So let's look at, there are differences in defamation law. The status of the person matters. So if you are a private person, and I hear a lot of people that say they don't post on Facebook and they're not into social media, and there's nothing wrong if you are, but there's a lot of people that don't want to put themselves out in the public, and they try to limit their exposure to any kind of public attention, and there is some value in that. Now, I'm not saying not to. If that's the way you want to live your life, go with it. There's some value in that. When I was in law enforcement, I worked at night. I was quietly cleaning up the roads. The fatality rate was under 1,000 people and going down, and because I was keeping it down, a lot of other troopers that they got rid of, a lot of other officers they got rid of, were keeping the roads safe. Our intent was to keep the roads safe for the public and safely try to bring those to justice that were causing damage and carnage to themselves and other people. And their mentality, see how high they can go on the pay scale and see how much power they can get for their wonderful, beautiful self in their own damaged, deranged, dirty minds. But there are differences in the status of the person. If you keep yourself private individual, try to limit your exposure. You don't run for public office. Don't put yourself out in a public event where you have public exposure. You're considered a private person. So if someone says something false about you, you have an easier route to file a civil litigation, a civil tort for defamation, because you're a private person and you're showing your value and your privacy. And in order, if someone says something false about you, the standard is that it was false and that it hurt your reputation and that you suffered damages. The standard, if you're a private person, if you're not a public official, if you're not in government service, if you're not interjecting yourself into something that's newsworthy, a popular event, if you're not interviewing with the news, then you're a private person. And if someone says something false about you, and a lot of people are like that, good, God bless you. God bless the people that are interject themselves into private stuff. There's a burden to be borne for doing that. Then if someone says something false about you, you have to prove the elements of defamation, that it was a privilege. If people in government power say something false about you, they get by with it. Doesn't matter if it wasn't true. That you have to prove that it wasn't privilege, it wasn't on the House floor, it wasn't by a government office, behind a judge, hiding behind their robes, in their sick mouths and their sick judicial rulings, for the most part, not all of them. And you have to prove it's false, and you have to prove it was disseminated to at least a third person, that they said that, they spread it, spoke it, wrote it, and it got out at your volition. Or even accidentally, if you're talking about somebody and somebody's in the back seat of your car, you should have known that, and you say such and such is a crook on their job, and somebody else heard it and you've seen them, then that could be defamation. Is disseminated to at least a third person, and it caused people not to want to deal with them. And so somebody says that about you, and you go to a civil court, and you hire an attorney, go to civil court, or you could do it pro se. And you go to civil court and you sue that person for damages, and the statute of limitations on defamation or slander is, I think it's about 6 months. Don't quote me on that. And for written, which can last a little longer, I think about 3 years. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a licensed attorney, so but if it's written, the thinking is it can stay out there longer. If it's spoken, then a shorter amount of time or any damages. So you have a relatively short time to file a civil lawsuit, a tort lawsuit for defamation, and you go into court and you have to prove those elements. Now, the defense to defamation, which is what I stand on when I talk every day, which sometimes the truth don't matter in front of their crooked courts. I mean, they'll rule in favor of them. They'll say the truth is a lie. They do it every day, all day long in their rogue dirty, nasty, sick, stinchy courtrooms in the state of Tennessee, all over the state. I mean, that's just the truth. I can tell you about some of the stuff they said. It's like, it would say, wow, and I'm not going to repeat it because it's defamation. It was against other people. Their courtrooms are just I would call them a circus, but it's dangerous. It's like a war going on where they're trying to destroy as many people in the state of Tennessee as possible. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. That's not exaggeration. That's true. Go sit in one of the courtrooms and listen to some of the stuff they do. You can go to law school and learn all these legal rules that they teach all over the United States that have been passed on from ages that are good rules. The law's good. You go to a Tennessee courtroom, you say, where's all that stuff I learned? I mean, you can't tamper with witnesses, and you got tampering with witnesses. You got judges saying sick, pathetic, dirty stuff, not abiding by any rule of law. Stand behind privilege. And you know what the real privilege is? I'll tell you what the real privilege is. They show you what the real privilege is when you walk in the door and they pat you down, they got guns. The real privilege is we got a gun and we will kill you. You go along with our program. You say, but it's not the right program. It's not according to law. We got a gun. Shut the hell up. Go along to get along. And that's what they want to propaganda. Don't go along to get along. I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about vote. Vote these dirtbags out of office. They're dirtbags. They tell me it bothers them for me to call them dirtbags in the government. And so you know what you do? You know what you do when you're in a confrontation with somebody. This is symbolic, not real. When you're in a confrontation with somebody, I mean, just thinking logically, and you do something that hurts them, and you're trying to stop them from continuing to hurt you. And they say, ouch, don't do that, that hurt. What do? You do it some more, you know you're winning. So they've told me not to, that it bothers them that I call the Tennessee judiciary dirtbags and thugs. Well, let me say it loud, it hurts them. A lot of the Tennessee judiciary, I would go so far as to say most of them, in my opinion, based on facts, not defamation, by some of the things they say, horrific, lying in court about people, defamation, stand behind privilege, are dirtbags and thugs. I'll say it again. They're not intimidating me. Don't try to kill the messenger, Tennessee judiciary. Clean your act up. You say, how dare that man? Well, who is he? Well, I'm a human being, and I have a constitutional rights. You didn't give it to me, Tennessee judiciary. You didn't give me my rights by the Constitution. The Constitution recognizes my God-given rights. You get off my God-given rights. You got that? Tennesseans, don't back down from these people. They've made themselves a little utopia at your expense. That's what they've done. That's the truth. This is unbridled news. If you thought you were going to CNN, somebody backing up the Con News Network, somebody backing up Democrats or Republicans, you got it wrong. I will speak the truth about both of them. We're talking about defamation and communication and propaganda today. It's vitally important. I'm putting out the truth, fighting against their defamation, their false light, their invasion of privacy that they get by with under privilege and with their power with a gun, and their propaganda that is false, which is exactly what they do to you on a daily basis. Nobody else is fighting this. Help me fight this. And I'm really fighting it. I'm not fighting it for any personal reason. I'm not fighting it because I'm trying to get somebody. They get themselves. I'm literally helping them because what they're doing is dangerous for them. It's not good for them. They're like, these people in power are like gluttons. They have so much power and they eat so much. I'm trying to save and protect them. That is the literal God's honest truth. As a Christian, I should love my enemies. So by speaking out against their damaging behavior that even hurts them, that is the Christian thing to do. It's called love your neighbor. Now, I don't need their help. I don't need them to apologize to me. I don't need them to make things better. God's on my side. God can work things out for us without them correcting anything. God's going to correct things. Ultimately, if not in this life, and I think a lot of it will be, in the next, because God made this world, God made goodness, and God made us in his image. And ultimately, justice and right will prevail. They're on a losing trail. Let me stop them before they hurt themselves severely. They've already hurt themselves. We're trying to help them. So we're talking about propaganda, and we're talking about defamation and speech-related wrongs, you know, in the Ten Commandments. And one of the things the government's done right, they're going to trying to pass a bill to allow the 10 Commandments to be posted in every school. You know, kids need to hear that. Look at all these mass shootings. They're doing it for historical persons. Thou shalt not kill. Wow. Kids need to know that. There are people out there fighting. Don't put that up. I mean, okay, let's like in Nashville, the mass shootings. At least they're being told, and I think today they're even afraid to tell them, thou shalt not kill. It depends on the circumstances and the time of day, and crime and wrong is relative. No, it's not. It's not relative like that. When you murder somebody with malice and forethought for your own personal sick reasons, that's murder. You'll burn in hell. God Almighty said, thou shalt not kill. He also said, and it's a form of killing, which is what they do on a daily basis, is thou shalt not bear false witness. There's more than one way to kill somebody. You put a gun to their head, like it says in the song Bohemian Rhapsody. Mama, I just killed a man today. Put a gun to his head, pulled the trigger, now he's dead. And I'm speaking symbolically. I'm against violence. Mama, I just killed a man today. I put behind a government office. I spread false information about them, destroyed their career and any future career hopes that they ever had by speaking lies and falsehood using my position of power. I killed them symbolically by propaganda and defamation. It's just as deadly in a sense, except for if they don't get it done. If they don't get it done, because they're not, you still got a heartbeat, you can still fight them. You're still alive. You can get on your knees and pray and ask God to help you. And He has. It's a wonderful thing to be able to pray. We're talking about defamation, communication wrongs, and propaganda, and stuff you need to know about them to keep you safe. Let's see how many people got in here. We'll continue this dialogue. Some really good stuff. I'm not a licensed attorney, but I just happen to have a doctor of jurisprudence, passed the bar exam twice. They'll never let me be a lawyer because I tell the truth and I would fight wrong appropriately, in appropriate circumstances, legitimately through the legal appropriate system that they have set up. So I'm not a rogue person. They are. Now, anything they say you are, they are probably most likely. So they say I'm not honest while they're committing felonies of dishonesty. I'm very honest. I mean, how does it look? I'm speaking the truth to power. They're not honest. They're privileged, so their honesty gets protected. And I have never been convicted of any crime, but that's probably coming up, not because I'm committing a crime, because the challenge is there, so they're going to try to get me convicted of a crime in order to say, well, see, look, he got convicted of a crime. Although I've never committed a crime or not committing a crime, I'm standing up for the mass populace, the mass people in the United States of America, in the state of Tennessee, and throughout the world. I'm telling you, God's got us. The truth matters. Fight these people, not with bullets and guns. Don't be afraid of the truth. Don't be afraid of them. If they were honest and people to be feared, they wouldn't have to lie and be chickens like they are and wouldn't have to be so dirty. They're a lot of evil people. Let's see how many people got on here. Listen to the show. I think it's some very interesting stuff from somebody that's passed the bar exam twice, got a legal education, been a police officer for 18 years. I know the ins and outs. I've been inside their war training camps, and I know how they lie, and I know how they do things. I know the internal mechanics of their falsehoods, and I've met these people face to face. I've looked them in the eye. I know how wicked and cowardly they are. You can tell by people's body language. So I got some really good inside information. Nobody does this. It's too damn dangerous to do this. Pray for my safety, health, protection, and well-being against people in government, that God will protect me from them. I believe that He will. I'm in a unique situation. And I will pray for all of you all, safety, health, protection, and well-being as you pray for me. Thank you all. So we'll go on with some more of this. A private individual only has to prove that those elements. In defending that, you have to prove that the statement was true. And that's what I stand on. Listen, many people got in here. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all viewing my show. It's been a wonderful thing. 2.2 million people and climbing. So, yeah. And climbing. So, let's talk about a private person. Sarah's Bakery uses rotten ingredients. That's a false fact. So she could sue. She could sue for defamation. So let's look at some in a private person, you have a huge degree of privacy. So when somebody says something about you, you have more rights to easier path for you to sue somebody for defamation. You simply have to prove that it was spoken or written, that it was disseminated, and that it lowered you in the standing of the community, and that what they said was false for defamation. Now they can say something true, and there's still civil lawsuits about that. So if they're defending a civil litigation against you, they simply have to prove that the statement that they said in a defamation lawsuit was true, that it was the truth what they said about you. And if it is true, and this is what y'all need to know, if it is true, they're allowed to say it, unless it falls under one of the other civil torts that I'm going to speak to you about just in a minute. You can, under other civil torts, speak the truth about somebody and still be sued for it. The truth doesn't always protect you. Depends on what truth it is. So if I say that Sarah is a criminal, and Sarah's a private person, she doesn't go and she doesn't put herself out in the public, she's not in government service, and she sues me for defamation, saying that my statement wasn't privileged, I'm not in the government, and saying that I spoke it to a third person, that it was disseminated, and that it was false, and that it hurt her reputation, caused people not want to deal with her. Obviously, calling somebody a criminal would cause other people maybe not to want to deal with them. Then she sues me. Then all I have to prove when I go to court is if she was a criminal. If she has broken the law and been convicted, then all I have to do is show up to court and argue to the jury. If it gets that far, it'll probably be dismissed because it's the truth. I'll just send in a paper to the court that here's her conviction record. What I said was true. The judge would dismiss it without going to court because I'm rebutting it with facts. But if it did go to a jury, show the jury, look, here's her criminal record. I said she was a criminal. Here's her criminal record. She is, in fact, a criminal. So I'm allowed to say that. So don't be afraid of everything you say. You can say certain things if, in fact, they are true about people. And that's where they're afraid to say anything about anybody. If it's true, you can say it. If people in government power, what I'm saying about them is true. They put out false information about me. They caused the fatality rate to skyrocket. I can prove that with facts. Look at this right here. Here's a fact I can prove that they were dangerous to society, that they dismissed hundreds of tickets. I didn't dismiss them. They dismissed hundreds of tickets of dangerous people without penalty. That makes the roads more dangerous. Look at that right there. I can say that Lionel Russell's dangerous. That the Attorney General in Knox County, Randy Not Worth the Plug Nichols, is dangerous. I'm allowed to say that because it is true. Now, he's a public official. I have a little more rights to say that about him, but that's something I can go prove before a judiciary. But I'm not just saying Randy Good for Nothing Nichols is dangerous to society. He could sue me for defamation. I can go to court and say, no, wait a minute, this is true what I'm saying. Look at the jury, and you're all the jury right now. I'm presenting my case about Randy Nichols. I can say, no, Randy Nichols, and I'm saying Randy Nichols, who now works for the Knox County Sheriff's Department, this is Knox County Sheriff's race going on right now. You might, when you question these people that are running for sheriff, ask them what they're going to do about Good for Nothing, Not Worth a Plug Nichols, Randy Nichols, that works for the Sheriff's Department, because he's dangerous to society. He dismissed hundreds of tickets for drunk drivers. He let a child go, somebody that hurt a child in a drunk driving wreck, that I arrested, I put in jail, I did my thing and almost got killed doing it, while he sat in an office and dismissed the criminal charge against somebody that hurt a child. I mean, that's what he did. So I can say Randy Nichols is dangerous to society. He now works for the Sheriff's Department. That's not false communication. I'll go to court and prove that. That's what he did. It's in the papers. Now, they blame this by propaganda. They blame his endangering people on me. I didn't dismiss any tickets. Didn't do anything wrong. Now, that's what they say. A district attorney in another county, he said I wasn't credible to come to court. A district attorney in another county at the same time subpoenaed me. I talked to him about going to court in another case. So he thought I was, and I am candid. So defamation's false communication. So I could say that about him. if you're a private person, you simply have to prove those elements and that it was false, that what they said about you was false. If I say that you're a drunken sot, spread that around, people don't want to deal with you. They think you're a drunken sot. You can't work, you might not be able to get a job. And all you have to do is go to court and prove that you're not a drunken sot. And if I can't go to court and prove something that substantiates what I said, then you could get money from me for defamation. Let's see how many people I got in here. God bless y'all. We're going to talk more about defamation and defamation law. And thank y'all so very much. We don't have a lot of people in here, but we don't care. When we don't have a lot of people in here, we'll talk to the people that are watching. So defamation law is depending on the status of the person that is being defamed. If you're just a private person, the mass populace of Tennesseans, then you got a lot of rights as far as defamation goes. And if you are in public office and have put yourself out in the public, then you don't have as much rights to you don't have as much rights to sue somebody for defamation. They have more. It's a harder burden for you to prove. So if you run for public office, or put yourself out in the public, if you run for public office or put yourself out in the public, or are somebody that makes their living off public attention, then if somebody says something false about you, and this is why you see politicians in the news all the time on the front page of the paper, because it's harder for somebody to sue successfully if you're out in the public. So the status of the person in defamation law, saying false stuff about them, matters. If you're a private person, it's a little easier trail for you to sue. You got more protection. So if you're one of the mass Tennesseans and somebody said something wrong, falsely about you, you have more rights and it's easier for you to sue them. You have more protection. If you're a public person, then you have put yourself out in the public and you have to prove that the statement was unprivileged. And usually if you're a public official, got a lot of power, these people in public are not going to say anything about you, you got power. But if you're a public official, you're running for public office, or you're somebody that's out in the public, or you make your living off public attention, then you have to prove that the statement was unprivileged, the statement was false, and that it was disseminated to a third person, and that it lowered you in the stand in the community, caused other people not want to deal with you, reputational harm. And you have to prove the standard when you go to court is it's not enough that it was false like a private person. A private person is false and you get damages. A person out like me, and this is why they've got the Bible saying a lot of horrific stuff about me, is because I'm out in the public, I've ran for public office. So the standard that I have to prove for a public official is actual malice. Now that's a legal term of art. What that means is that I have to prove that when somebody said something bad about me, that they had knowledge of the falsity, they knew it was false what they said about me, or they acted with reckless disregard for the truth. So that's a little different than just proving it's false. Actually, that's a lot different. Now, a public person that's got that status can sue, but it's a little harder because of the standard. You have to prove falsity. I have to prove that they acted with knowledge of the falsity. They knew it was false. They acted with actual malice. They knew it was false. That's hard to prove. That's subjective. They knew it was false. I have to prove something that they've said, which is hard to get, that they've said something that I know this is not true, but I'm going to say it anyway. If they said that and I got it in writing or got somebody to testify that, then that is knowledge of the falsity. They knew that it was false. If I can prove they knew what they said was false, then I could possibly get a civil suit for defamation, assuming we're going in an honest Tennessee courtroom, which is very difficult to find in Tennessee. You might get that a little better in the federal court. Sometimes you want the federal court. But I could prove that they said it knowing that it was false. Now, if you're suing a private person, you don't have to prove that they knew it was false. Just the fact it was false, you get some money from them in that standard. Or also that they acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Either one of those two, and I could sue for defamation. I'm considered a public person. I mean, I got 2.2 million people that have listened in the last few days. So if you say something false about me, that's a high burden. Reckless disregard for the truth means that you knew you had some serious red flags that what you're about to say about me wasn't true. You, ding, 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 you had that information available. You ignored those serious red flags that you were spreading falsehoods, like some of the people on here, and you said it anyway. Then I could sue you for defamation. If you acted with knowledge of the falsity of the statement, you knew it was false. I got to be able to prove that. That's hard to prove that you knew it was false. Or reckless disregard for the truth. There were some serious signs, red flags that you should have seen that you didn't pay attention to, and you said what you said anyway. And that's the standard that I have to have as a public person. So the status of the person matters. That's why in the news you see all these people in public slammed all to hell, because it's harder for them to sue people than it is a private person. So if you value your privacy, having ever run for office, there's value in that. And also the knowledge of the falsity of the statement. Now, if there is any inkling, in my opinion, that what you say is true about the person that you're speaking against, that's a public official, you have some basis for what you're saying, even if it is not true. Now, if you know it's not true and say it anyway, then and you have a basis for it, then you're still wrong. But if you have on a public official, somebody's put themselves out in the public, and I'm not giving legal information. I'm telling you what I do, and this is the truth. If I have a basis for what I'm saying that's defamatory, that lowers somebody, a public official, somebody out in the public, in the stand of the community, I have a sound basis. I can say that I said that because of this, that this is the reason why I believe that's true. Then I'm not knowing it's false because I think it's true because of the information that I have. So that wouldn't be knowledge of the falsity. So these people out in public, if I have a sound basis, I can pull something and say, look at this. This is why I believe this is true. Then I'm allowed to say that against them because I don't have knowledge of falsity. I have actual knowledge that it is probably true. So I can say that. Whereas a private person, I don't have that level of leeway. Be very careful what you say about a private person. It has to be true. But a public official, if you got a basis and you believe that it's a high likelihood it's true, you believe it to be the truth, then you can say it, but you have to have the basis for it. But if you know that it's false, or you should know, and you act recklessly, like you're doing 95 in a 55, and you know that the speed limit's 55, but you choose to do 95, if you know what you're saying is false, and you say it anyway about somebody in public, then they have a case against you for defamation. But the standard is actual malice for somebody like me. And the standard for you, for the mass populace, is the falsity of it. It's false. Now, defamation is not a recommended civil cause of action because, in my view, because if you sue somebody for defamation, say I say that you're a drunk, like I say Major Stacey Heatherly is a drunk, and she's dangerous to herself and society, and she lies about stuff. I'm saying that as about Stacey Heatherly. I'm not using this example. I'm literally saying that. Now she is public. She's a major with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and you say, well, she can sue me for defamation. She says that's not true, but the standard for her to prove against me, of course, she's got judges that are in her pocket. I mean, judges have literally written stuff about her in their opinions against me that make her out to be a saint while she's lying and endangering society. That's just the truth. That's not the propaganda they want you to hear, but that's the truth. If she were to sue me for defamation, she has to prove malice, that I acted when I said that, and I'm saying that I acted with and these people are listening. Hello, and I don't care. You know, they shouldn't have started a fight with me. The fight's what I do. That's my forte. You're not going to win this. And I'm just telling you, the standard that she has to prove against me. She's never been to law school. She's a complete idiot. I mean, you know, I'm saying that as a matter of fact too, and I can prove that. But the standard she has to prove against me is actual malice. She has to prove that I know what I'm saying is false. She'll never prove that because I know what I'm saying is the truth. I've never told anybody I'm lying about her. She's not a drunk. I'm just saying it because I'm mad at her. No, it's true. She's a drunk. She has to prove that I know what I'm saying is true. That's actual malice. I know what I'm saying is true. Knowledge of the falsity, and I don't have knowledge of falsity. I've got knowledge of the truth, or that I'm acting with reckless disregard for the truth. There's a lot of evidence out there saying, no, she's not a drunk. Now, I know what I'm saying is true. I'm not, because there's newspaper clippings where she's gotten suspended for her alcoholism and done other things to try to protect herself from and told lies about me, and judges have lied for her. So she'd have a hard time. And also, here's the fact: if you sue somebody for defamation, even a private person, you attack them. If they said something false about you, so you sue them into court for defamation. You go to court, and the argument, the contest is about this. And you listen to defamation lawsuits. The contest is you're arguing that what they said about you is not true. And so you're going to have to sit through hours, as long as they stretch it out, of them bringing witnesses and calling you, saying you're a drunk, because they're trying to prove that you're a drunk, because that's what the case is about. That's the thesis of the case, that you are in fact a drunk. So you're going to have to sit in court and you're going to say, Your Honor, jury, they lied about me. They said I was a drunk, lowered me in stand in the community, disseminate to a third person, and I'm not a drunk. I'm asking for $10 million from Charles Van Morgan. So then I get my turn, and you have to sit there. You brought me into court. So hello, I'm here. You might not like what you get, because I'm going to come to court and I'm going to bring witnesses and documents and show the jury and prove to the jury, while you look at me, I'll hold them up, that you are in fact a drunk. And you're going to have to listen to that for several days. Bad information about you, because I'm going to prove it's true. And at the end of the case, I would hope an honest jury, and I bet they will, say, case dismissed, and I'll get to prove, even at a higher stage, that you are in fact a drunk. So you get that in a court record, solidified by a jury, hopefully, because the judge will probably nullify it before it ever gets there, and that's the way that works. So I would not encourage people to sue people for defamation, because you're going to have to sit there through a lot of stuff that's said bad about you, and then proving that it's true, if you get what I'm saying. So the other things about defamation, the status of the person, defamation law, the other things about civil wrongs is, even if you tell the truth, even if you're truthful about saying something about somebody, you can still be sued for the other torts of invasion of privacy and false light. And those are, if you disseminate information about somebody that is false, or that is true, but it's information that they have no right in knowing about, even if it's true. So it's not defamation, it's not false, but you spread information, like you say they wear Depends, and you go out and you spread information, Charles Van Morgan wears Depends, which I don't. But you go out and you spread information about a medical condition that I allegedly have, and say that I do in fact wear Depends. I can still sue you, because even though you're saying it's true, because of invasion of privacy, because you're disseminating information to other people that is not newsworthy, that they have no right to know. So even if it's true. So false information is not the only thing that you have to be concerned about when you're out speaking about people. If you give some medical information about somebody that the public has no right to know, even if it's true, they can sue you for invasion of privacy. People don't have no right to know that. You shouldn't say that about people. It's not defensible in a court of law, and you can be sued for that. Also, this is truthful information that you can be sued for, even if you're telling the truth, is false light. That is, if you give out truthful information, but you present it in a false light. For example, you say that Charles Van Morgan is getting sued. I went in the courthouse just about 3 weeks ago, and you show a picture of me going to the courthouse, and you say that that I went to the courthouse, and you put it in a bad light, is that I'm having involved in litigation, that I'm going to the courthouse, and try to present that in a bad light, like the news media tries to say, and the Google tries to say that I'm involved in numerous litigations. There's somebody, a YouTuber, that's sued hundreds of people, more people than anybody, a real famous YouTuber, I'm not going to say his name, but involved in filing hundreds of lawsuits against people in federal court. So many lawsuits that the YouTubers filed that the federal courts have banned him from filing as pauperous, where he doesn't have to pay the court cost. I know I didn't say that name right, but you can file in federal court if you don't have any money, and the court will waive the court cost. And you can go ahead and proceed with the case until you can pay for it if you don't have the money. And he's filed that way and filed hundreds of court cases, and the courts have said that he can't file any more of those lawsuits. He filed so many. And that's the picture, the propaganda that they tried to put me out, that I'm involved in a lot of the litigation. And that's not true. That's just absolutely not true. When I was a police officer, I was sued several times unsuccessfully. I won the lawsuits because people attacked me because I was making the roads safer. And so they didn't like me enforcing the laws that even protected them. They sued me. And unlike a complaint where a department dismisses it, that's true. A lot of police officers get complaints filed against them. They're high up in hierarchy, and the complaint gets sued. We're talking about complaints that were made about me. Not only was it reviewed by the department, it was reviewed by you, the citizenry. Looked at the case where I was accused of wrongdoing, a jury, and you heard the case, not just what the department said. The other side that was accusing me of wrong got to stand up in front of you and say, this is what he did. And I got through the lawyer that I had, get to stand up, and he would say, no, he didn't do this. This is what happened. He did nothing wrong. And because of litigation, and you can read the cases, where I was falsely accused, you all decided I was falsely accused. So it's more than just a complaint that went through the department, which is what a lot of true complaints that just go through the departments are dismissed. My complaint went through you. So it's a good thing that I was sued falsely, because you all said I didn't do nothing wrong. So I was falsely accused. So the fact that I was falsely accused, adjudicated by you all, reviewed by the department, reviewed by the public, I said I didn't do anything wrong, they used that against me. I mean, if you win, you lose with them. If you lose, you really lose, dealing with the government. That's how they do it. So the fact that I was sued numerous times, I think about 4 times, means, and one being adjudicated, means it was looked at by more than the public, and you all exonerated me. So it means I'm not only innocent, I'm innocent. Innocent by the department and innocent by the public. And they still use that against me. So you can't win against this false propaganda. This literally says he was sued a bunch of times. It doesn't say that I was sued a bunch of times wrongly and that I was out protecting the public, doing what I should have been doing. So those lawsuits are a good thing. They're not a bad thing. Some of the officers that never get sued are the ones that aren't doing their jobs, because they get stopped at the department level. And they're not doing their jobs. If they did their jobs, they'd probably get sued a time or two. Have you ever thought about that? But they present it propaganda in a false way. They get information, but cherry pick it. The fact that I was sued is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I was exonerated by the department and you. So, and they use bad information against you, even if you win. And so if I am going into a courthouse and somebody puts out information in a false light, even though it's true, I was going to the courthouse, and they're alleging that he's involved in litigation, trying to run me down again. Well, I went to the courthouse just a few weeks ago because I was issued a court summons to come to court to have jury duty, to be on a jury. They had a bunch of people, and I wasn't selected, thank the good Lord in heaven. I would have fulfilled my civic duty and been on the jury had I been asked, but I went into court because I was required to, completing my civic duty. But if somebody put that in a false light, saying he's involved in litigation, again, I wasn't involved in litigation. I was asked to come to court to be on a jury, possibly, through the questioning of the jurors. There was like 40 of us, and 12 of them selected, and I was glad I wasn't selected. They're never going to select somebody like me on the jury because they know I know the law and I'll come up with a just answer. It was the case involving freedom of speech, nonetheless, a case where a high school student said stuff on on Facebook about a principal at the high school here in Tennessee, and they suspended him. And he contested it, and they cut it back to a few less weeks. He sued them in federal court, saying that they violated his right to freedom of speech because he posted something bad about a joke about the principal of the school. A federal jury ruled in the high school student's favor that he could say that they had no right to suspend him in school. So he won the case. He got nominal damages. I think the jury awarded him $1. But as a matter of fact, as a matter of the court, the jury, not just the judge, ruled that the school district in Tennessee violated the student's freedom of speech here just a few weeks ago because he posted something against the principal, funny, and they suspended him. The jury said that the school district couldn't suspend him for that. He's allowed to do that. So you can be found wrong in a civil litigation, not just by saying false information, by saying truthful information that the public has no right to know, invasion of privacy, talk about something that's not of public significance, that's not newsworthy about somebody. My example, that somebody wears Depends. People don't have a right to know that. You shouldn't be out saying that about people. They can sue you for invasion of privacy. Or if you speak the truth about somebody. I went into the courthouse that I'm involved in litigation again, trying to run me down, and you put that in a false light. But I wasn't just involved in the litigation involving myself. I had to go to court based on the summons to appear for potential jury duty. Then you put that in a false light, that in fact I'm going in the courtroom, even taking a picture of me. Then you can be sued for false light, putting the truth on something. I was going in the courtroom involved in litigation as a juror, not involved in anything like they try to say I'm involved in a lot of litigation. I'm not involved in a lot of litigation. And even if I were, I have never to this point, now they might now because of what I'm saying, I've never to this point, and I've filed a lot of lawsuits, I've never had a case dismissed based on it being frivolous. Everything I filed has been dismissed on technicalities, meaning the merits of the case, what I said about the case wasn't litigated. And I can tell you from a fact that had it been litigated on the facts and I've been given a fair hearing, I would be a licensed attorney right now. Had nothing to do with the facts. It's based on jurisdiction, the rules about can they even litigate the case. And I even disagree with the judge in that they should have litigated it. This time I'll probably appeal my case if the judge in Tennessee dismisses it. Then I'll probably appeal the case to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is a Sixth Circuit in the Tennessee area that adjudicates appeals from a trial court level here in the Eastern District of Tennessee if it's dismissed, because I'm arguing to a notable, worthy cause. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm trying to get my law license through a legal procedure. And they're running me down. They even say in Tennessee, the reason that they won't give me my law license is because, now here's what they're saying. They're not saying this appropriately. They're using propaganda to say this. They're saying it falsely, putting it in a bad emotional position. But they're saying that I can't get my law license, and one of the reasons is because I filed a civil lawsuit against them. So they're trying to say don't file a civil lawsuit. They're not saying that the civil lawsuit I filed was legitimate. They're saying, they're sending a message, don't sue us. So they're saying the reason why they're not giving me a law license, in plain English, according to me, if it makes sense to you, is because I'm using appropriate procedures going through a court process. I'm not threatening any of the members of the Board of Law Examiners, although they have threatened me. I'm not threatening them. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to shoot any of them. I'm not going to hurt him if I don't get my law license. I'm not going to hurt any of them. I'll speak the truth about it. What happened, verbal speech, not false light, not invasion of privacy, not defamation. I'll speak the truth about them. I won't hurt any of them. I'm not for violence. I'm against violence. They're not for violence. They've done violent, initiated apparent violent acts against me. I'm just telling you that's the truth. That's not falsehood. That's the truth. When I'm trying to chase me down the road coming after me. Fortunately, the light turned green. I mean, these people, you'd be surprised. You think because they got high-confluent positions that they're good, honest, honorable, nonviolent people. I'm telling you, no, they're not. I met them. They're dangerous as hell to your safety, protection, well-being. They're saying literally in their ruling that the reason why I can't get my law license, I've filed civil lawsuits. So they're saying because I have not used violence. I mean, if I use violence, if they said I threatened to do something, beat them up or something, sure, right? That we're not going to let him be a lawyer. He's violent. He threatened to hurt one of us. I've never done that. Now they have to me. They have to me. But because I'm using appropriate procedure, I'm going through a civil process saying that we will work this out in court, non-violently in front of a judge or jury, try to handle this in a civilized manner, the way society is supposed to run. You have a dispute with somebody. You don't beat them up. You don't hurt them. You go to court, and it's civilized warfare, and you discuss things. You have an antagonistic confrontation verbally in court, and let the judge or jury sort it out. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you handle things as a Christian. And they're saying because I've tried to handle things appropriately, I can't be a lawyer, even though they're lawyers in the legal system. I mean, doesn't that just make you think, wow, how do they get by with that? They got a gun. They got a gun. They don't play by rules. They play by threats, harassment, and intimidation and lies and put people in poverty. That's what people in the government do. And that's what they're doing. I'm not defaming them. I'm telling the truth. I'm not putting them in a false light. This is exactly how it is. They said because I filed lawsuits against them. Re ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. And it is not defamation. It's true. It's not false light. It's absolutely correct. It's not invasion of privacy. I wouldn't dare say something about them that the public has no right to know. You have a right to know how Tennessee license and don't license attorneys and why they do it. They say they do it, their own words, because I filed a lawsuit against them. Wow, can you imagine that? Attorneys that won't license lawyers or prospective lawyers that have filed lawsuits. Well, then what are we supposed to do? You want us to fight it out in the street? Maybe that's what they want. I don't know. Of course, they don't want a fair fight, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to give them that. That's not right. File lawsuits. I filed one then. They told me not to do it, and I told you. When they say something offends them that hurts them, even though it's justified, don't stop doing it if it's the right thing to do the first time, because that's why you did it. You do it again. I filed a lawsuit. That's the right way to handle it. I'm not threatening anybody, nor would I ever. I'm just doing it again. You're not stopping me. You're not threatening me from doing the right thing. Keep doing the right thing. Let them worry about it. When they say, oh, that hurts when you do that. If it's the right thing to do, keep doing it. Don't worry about what they do. Don't worry about what they say. Don't play on their terms. They make their own crooked rules, and they don't even play by the rules that they set out. I know the law. I've got a doctor of jurisprudence. If they went by the law, it'd be beautiful. They don't go by the law. They go with a gun. Don't play on their play field. Don't play by their rules. Do what is right under God and follow the real rules. Don't play on their playground. They'll win. They got the rules rigged. They'll change the boundary. They'll lie, cheat, rob, and steal. And they do all the time. A lady on the board that was adjudicating that I'm not honest, Barbara Zulica, was committing a crime of dishonesty whereby she was convicted. At the time, she's saying, I'm not honest. I've never been convicted of any crime, let alone a crime of dishonesty. Can you even believe that? It would be funny, except for the fact that it's not funny, because I can't go to court right now and represent you to keep you from their false arrests that they're doing all over the state. And to keep me from fighting for the rights of Tennesseans because I won't fight for the rights of crooked people in government power. And I'm not going to. I'm going to point out the truth. Appropriately, I file complaints through their procedures. It does no good. In fact, it does good for them because they get your name, know who's fighting them justifiably, and do stuff blackballing, blackmailing, working against you. You file a lawsuit, we'll blackmail you. You'll never get your law license if you try to work it out civilly through a court process. Wow, isn't that very interesting? Unbridled news. Charles Van Moore. You won't hear this anywhere else. And hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe. Contribute if you can. This is unbridled news. We're talking about defamation, and we're going to get into talking about propaganda, which is a speech-related phenomenon where they get out stuff that they shouldn't get out, and it is very horrific, like they've done to me. Put stuff on the front page of the paper that is completely outrageously false. So let's start talking. Let's talk about the defenses to defamation. Whenever you say something, is it provable fact or commentary? Label it clearly. I'm going to label this commentary. It is commentary. Do you have documents, witnesses, records? Everything I say, I've got a basis for it. Now, you can listen to my hearing when I went before the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners, the second one. I've got both of them on there. Where I put out the hearing, it's recorded. The first one they made me pay for. The second one, I'm not sure that it's completely accurate, but what I said in the hearing, and they asked me about things I'd said, thinking that I would back down, and I said them, and I thought about what I said before I said it. And if I back down, they don't want the truth. They want you to back down so they can get you on the record saying that wasn't true. And they're still going to deny law license. I mean, they really think we're stupid. The mass Tennesseans, they think we're stupid. They think they can bully us, shove stuff down our throat, make us confess to crimes we never committed so that they got the feather he admitted. And don't do that. Don't let them have their feather. Even if they do wrong, stick to the truth. It has weight and value. Their lies don't matter. They're not going to matter in the test of time. They will not. And they want you to believe that. So is it provable? Do you have documents, witnesses? Are you adopting the claim as truth or reporting it carefully? Any private facts with no public concern, don't report it. And here's the invasion of privacy. Information can be true and still actionable. For common categories: public disclosure of private facts, false light, intrusion upon exclusion, appropriate name and likeness for benefit. Defamation is false harms. So, truthful private information publicly disclosed, not of legitimate public concern, highly offensive to a reasonable person. That is the invasion of privacy. Examples: posting someone's medical diagnosis, posting someone's sexual history, publishing financial records. Truth doesn't save you in those circumstances. And false light. True or false info presented in a misleading way creates false impression, highly offensive. A photo of a man entering a courthouse, caption: caught in fraud scheme. He was there for jury duty. Twisted truth, liability risk. Intrusion upon seclusion. Wrongful intrusion into someone's private space or affairs. Secretly recording someone inside someone's home, hacking into emails, peeping devices. This tort is about how you obtain the info, not what you published. And appropriation of likeness. Using someone's name or image for commercial benefit without permission. Example: putting a private person's photo on a product ad without consent. So if someone puts your picture on their YouTube icon, you're a private person, you could sue them for appropriation of name. Public figures have reduced privacy, but not zero. So this defamation law, and this is how when you're talking about public officials, a New York Times v. Sullivan was a case 1964 when I was born, and it is a public official standard. Must prove actual malice, knowledge of falsity, reckless disregard for the truth. Why it matters. Protects criticism of government officials. The concept is this: that debate needs breathing space. So you have a lot of leeway to criticize people in the government, people out in the public officials. I use it. You don't have to. I do. Don't be afraid to post truthful information about public officials. We have a lot of leeway in doing that. So much leeway, in fact, that it has to be substantially correct. You can post stuff about public officials, and I'm not giving legal information, that's what I do, that has some minor inaccuracies, as long as the crux of the story is true. It might have some minor falsehoods that's insignificant, and you don't have to worry about every word you say when you're talking about a public official. I don't. Philadelphia newspaper versus Helps. Public concern. Plaintiff must prove falsity, not the defendant's burden to prove truth first. So they have to prove what you said was false. You don't have to prove it's false. Hanks versus Canahugan, 1989. Purpose avoidance case. Ignoring obvious sources and reasons to doubt can show actual malice, not sloppy reporting, but deliberate avoidance. So if you have a sound basis for it to be true, then you can say it. Opinion is not a magic shield. If it applies to provable facts, it can be defamation. In my opinion, the committed bribery is not protected. Hustler versus Falwell. Now this is protected speech if it's parody. You can make fun of public officials saying stuff that's completely false, that is outrageous, that no one should believe, maybe in a comic act, and about a public official, and you can say that as long as it is something that is obviously not true, obviously a parody, then you can make fun of public officials. And the public official cannot recover for emotional stress without factual statement made with actual malice. A parody is protected speech. The Jerry Falwell case is a case where Hustler magazine posted a false depiction of Jerry Falwell, and I'm not going to repeat it, but something pretty heinous about him that was labeled parody, a joke about him making fun of Jerry Falwell. Jerry Falwell was out in the public, a leader of the moral majority, and Hustler magazine was making fun of him. Jerry Falwell sued, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and he lost because it was an obvious joke that no one would believe what they said. So the more horrific and the more false, then the better protected you are in if you're claiming that it was a parody or satire. So you're allowed to make fun of public officials. So we've talked about defamation and the defenses to defamation, absolute privilege, court filings, testimony in court. Judges have qualified privileges, job references, internal reports made in good faith that but can be abused if lost, like you're trying to get a job and you put your other employer can pretty much speak freely. Fair, accurate credit report, official proceedings record, consent if they agree to publication. That's a defense. If I say something bad about you, that you're a drunk and you want to agree to me saying that, then you can't come back and say me later. So be careful what you agree to. And that gives a free ticket. I pretty much don't agree to anything if it's not right, if it doesn't benefit the public or me. Court filing alleges X to show document plus don't add, and it's true. And a parody is a defense. Pure opinion, not provable, true or false is safer. Examples. In my view, that policy is corrupting the government. Argument, critique, not safe. In my opinion, the mayor took bribes, still a provable fact, and that can be defamation unless you can show that the bribe that he took or indicate a strong indication that he probably did based on the facts that you have to establish. And so that is defamation. I will say how many people we have in here. And if we have a lot, we'll stay on, talk about defamation. If not, we may do defamation tomorrow. It was raining today, so I didn't go down to the bridge. I appreciate all y'all watching. I pretty much say what I think is truthful to say, especially about people in government power. I'm in a unique situation. The calling that I have to contest these people, to be a fighter and a warrior, and it ain't always meeting them head on. There's a lot of things I do to try to facilitate peaceful action, but where they won't work out the truth, then we'll go that way. As far as the public is concerned, you all are concerned, if something's true about somebody and it's not false light, it's not misinterpreting facts, putting facts in the wrong way, it's not cherry picking things. If it is not stuff that people would have no right to know, their medical information, and it is helpful, then you can say bad stuff about people if it's true. I pretty much say what I believe needs to be said. I have a doctorate in the law, so I can defend myself if I need to. The framework is there, so I would try to stay within the framework, but these courtrooms in Tennessee are so crooked that even if you're right, telling the truth, these judges might decide against you. So there's no sure thing. Anytime you open your mouth, you could get sued for it. So, the only way to not get sued is hiding in a cocoon somewhere, and you still might get sued. So I wouldn't be afraid to live, but the law can be used as a weapon by both sides. So don't be afraid to live and say what you need to say if it's the truth. According to the Bible, don't bear false witness. We'll see how many people we have, and we may do propaganda tomorrow. We didn't have very many people in here. Thank you all so very much for joining me. Had 2.1 million people in the past few days. So yeah, wow. 2.2 million people, coming on 2.33 million people in the past few days. And we thank you all so very much. We will go on. We got a few people in here. We will go on with we're talking about propaganda, because we got a bunch of people on here. Thank you all. Subscribe to the channel. You won't hear this out anywhere else. We're going to talk about propaganda put out by the government that defames people. That's false information, and I'll show you the definition of propaganda, and show you how the government uses propaganda every day in every way to humiliate and get their way in spite of what's the truth, to keep themselves in power. And let's see if we got the stuff on defamation here. So here we go. Propaganda is putting out information, governmental information, in a to try to perpetrate what they're trying to tell you, and they do that by court rulings, and they put out information to the public based on emotion sometimes, and try to get you to forget about facts and go straight to what they're trying to tell you, instead of trying to consider the truth. So let's look at, see if I can find my notes on propaganda. We may have to do that tomorrow. This show is filmed live. So let me mention a few things about defamation. So you'll be real clear on defamation. That there are 4 areas, something you need to know about. That there are 4 areas of defamation law, saying false information about somebody disseminated to at least a third person that tends to lower somebody in the standing in the community. And they in order for a successful defamation lawsuit, you have to prove damages. That means that someone was harmed by what you said. And like in the case of the high school student that posted something on Facebook, they alleged that the high school principal violated his constitutional right of freedom of speech because they suspended him. There was nominal damage awarded to the high school student. He won the case. The school district violated his First Amendment rights by punishing him for freedom of speech, but they awarded him $1, which is nominal damages, which if you're involved in a lawsuit, somebody defames you, you have to prove damages in order for you to get money. And so if they say you're a drunk and you're not a drunk, then and you prove it, and then you have to show that, hey, I didn't get this job, or I didn't get this because of what they said, and how much monetary value is that. But there are 4 categories of defamation that I'm very careful about saying, and you should too, that if you say these 4 categories, then the plaintiff doesn't have to prove damages. They're presumed. Now that presumption can be overcome, but I see this a lot. People say stuff about people, and if they were sued, then you don't have to prove damages. There are 4 things that are considered so heinous that the plaintiff doesn't even have to prove damages, and they can successfully sue you. If you say something about a person's work, you say they suck at their job. Now, they don't have to go in and prove that they weren't able to get a job because you said something about their job. Because if you say Charles Van Morgan is a horrible taxi driver, which is what's said on here sometimes, but you're talking about my way of making a living, and that I don't have to prove that I didn't get fares because you said that about me. Now, if you can go in and prove that's true, which you can't, that's not true. Then you can get by with saying that if it's true. But if I can prove that's not true, that I'm a great driver, then and this show is sponsored by me. I'm here in Knoxville, then smartest taxi driver you'll ever meet, hopefully, and then. But if I can prove that that's not true, or that what you said was false, because you're talking about my employment, I don't have to prove that I lost fares. That's presumed. So there's the presumption of damages if you criticize somebody's employment. So when you go messing with somebody's job, their livelihood, their way of making a living, which is what the state's done to me, and in more ways than one, that's how crooked they are. I mean, people have to make a living. Don't talk about people's employment unless it's true. Now, if they put you down for a job reference, they volunteered, or if you're an employer, then you have a right, you can give justified information, you've been requested. But if you go around talking about somebody's livelihood, and people do that all the time, and I'm thinking, are they that stupid? Don't talk about people's work unless it's true, it benefits people. But people all the time talk about people, how horrible they do their job and all that. That's shaky ground. If they sue you, they don't have to prove, in other tort civil court cases, they have to prove that they were damaged as a result of your false information that you disseminated to them, to a third party, that it caused other people not to deal with them, and that they suffered a consequence monetarily. They'll put a monetary value on the consequences of your spewing out falsehoods about them. But if you talk about their employment and they prove it's false, it's presumed that there was a monetary value. They don't have to prove how much it was. They're going to get money out of you. Be careful about talking about people's employment. If you say something about the chastity of a woman. You go around calling a woman a slut and a whore. They don't have to prove damages. I mean, they're gonna get some money out of it because you're challenging the chastity of a woman. That they don't have to prove damages. I'd be careful about going around saying that about women, unless you can prove it's true in some particular case, have evidence and proof. And, I would do that anyway, unless it's some justified reason. So if you say something about somebody's work, you're on shaky ground. They don't have to prove damages. That's an element that's presumed. If you talk about the chastity of a woman, that's an element that's presumed. They'll sue you and they can win and get damages, and they don't have to prove the exact dollar amount. It's presumed that they suffered a wrong for that category. The other category is if you say somebody committed a crime, you accuse me of being arrested for drunk driving, or in this, people have accused me of being arrested in Georgia, being a crack dealer or something like that. People on here have accused me of that. I'd be careful of that, because you're accusing me of a crime, and there's presumed damages. I don't even have to prove that I suffered damages as a result of your false communication that I have been convicted of a crime in Georgia, because I've never been convicted of a crime. I can prove that. That's false. So if you say that and publicize it, you're publicizing on the chat. I could literally sue you and win. I would have to prove damages, presume that I'm damaged as a result of your false communication. So you say something about somebody's word, you challenge the chastity of a woman, presume damages, or you say somebody has committed a crime, then if they prove it's false, they don't have to prove the exact damages. They're presumed. They just put a dollar value on that. That's an element they don't have to prove. So, and the other thing, if you say someone has a lonesome disease, if you go around saying somebody has clap, John Doe such has clap, and they don't, and then they can sue you for defamation if you publish it to at least a third person, and it'll lower them in standing community, I guarantee you. And they have to go to court, and it's false, and the damages are presumed. So those four categories, be very careful about. Now you can do what you want to. I'm not a practicing attorney, but I'm very careful about talking about somebody's job. Say they suck at their job. You better be careful. You better be able to prove it. They don't have to prove how much money they lost. That damage is presumed. You challenge the chastity of a woman, be careful. They don't have to prove damages. Saying that bad about them is so horrific. If it's not true, then they're going to sue you, and damages are presumed. You say something about somebody's committed a crime, like and they haven't committed one, you better have a court record or document. You say they committed a crime, then they can sue you. Other defamation areas, they have to prove damages. They have to prove how much they lost. They might get just nominal damage, but in accusing somebody of committing a crime, if they haven't, you don't have no court document that you can prove, show to court, damages are presumed. It'll be more than nominal, I bet. Or saying they have a lonesome disease, be careful. If they don't, they're going to sue you. They don't have to say this is how much money I lost. It's presumed automatically that they have suffered consequences and put a monetary value on it. So those four areas, be careful about saying that about people. It can damage you, and pretty much all those areas except for maybe one. The people in the state of Tennessee, in the government, have done that to me, unprivileged, and it is false. It's false by their false propaganda. So we will talk about propaganda. Maybe in tomorrow's show, maybe in Monday. Thank you all so very much for watching the show. I'll try to answer some chat questions. And I say a lot about people, and all of it is backed up by the truth. I hope they don't contest me in court. If they do, I'll go on my own volition. I don't have to hire an attorney. If I can afford one, I will. You're better off with an attorney if you can. And they're double agents. Be careful. They're an agent of the court. And so take that into consideration. You're better off hiring a licensed attorney going into court. I would. But don't be so careful about saying stuff that you don't publish the truth. But I say what I say based on the truth. This is unbridled news. It goes against the grain, against the propaganda that they have established, which makes it sound like defamation, but it is not. There's no knowledge of the falsity. I believe everything I say to be the truth. If I make a mistake, I will correct it as soon as possible, as soon as I'm made aware of it and it's true. To my knowledge, I haven't made any. And if it is, I'll correct it. And there is no actual malice. There's no knowledge of the falsity. I talk mostly about people in government power. It's all true. There's no knowledge of the falsity, and there is not reckless disregard for the truth, because I have examined what I say. I have facts, and any glaring warnings that maybe I ought not say that, maybe that's not true, that apparently reckless, then I have examined those warnings and looked at them and determined those warning signs to be false and can prove it. So I do not have reckless disregard for the truth. I don't have any actual malice in what I'm saying. So none of what I say is defamation. As a matter of fact, now, their courtrooms where they're slanted in their favor, where they get a promotion for lying, and I can prove that. I can prove that. Then they might decide that I defamed somebody, when in fact I actually didn't, because they got a gun. But that's the risk that I'm willing to take to fight for you. The way you can help me is subscribe to the channel, show them the huge volume of people that are listening that appreciate, that respect what I say, or that find it comical, whatever reason. Subscribe to the channel and watch the channel, share the channel, because we're fighting the people in public power who defame you, put you in a false light, and give out, invade on your privacy every single day, and stand behind privilege, and stand behind, I don't care, we got a gun, go along with what we say, or we'll kill you. They literally do that, I believe. So let's show them that the public is watching, not the rogue public in these cities and towns that bounce off hate. And a lot of people hate me. I don't care. God loves me, and God loves you, and I love you too. And that's the end of the show today. God bless y'all. I'll try to read some of the chat, and thank y'all so very much.